He's hit it perfectly.
Vintage Eddie Betts.
Welcome to the very first episode of The Colour of Your Jumper, thanks to Quip. I'm Shelley Ware, and joining me at the desk is Mathew Stokes and Andrew Krakouer.
Thanks, Shell.
Great to be here.
Sure is. And it's great to be starting the show during Sir Doug Nicholls' round. Guys, I thought it was brilliant that Michael Walters took the last kick of the round on Sunday to win the game for Freo. Now, Andy, a great moment, and Michael Walters is also a great footy story.
Absolutely great moment for Sir Doug Nicholls' round to be able to get the win and help Freo with the last kick. But he's been a great story, Michael Walters. I remember playing with him early days at Swan Districts Football Club when he was banished back to the Waffle because he didn't reach the requirements that an AFL footballer should be having, Mathew. So from then, early 2008, 2010 to where he is now, he's an absolute leader of the club and an elite player for in the competition. So it's an absolute credit to him, and he's the bloke that I'd be like having a kick for the win after the siren.
Matty, it's been said in the past that Ross Lyon is not a rebuilding coach, but has he proven everyone wrong?
I think to this time of the year, he probably has. I mean, he's been able to bring in some elite talent in Hogan, Wilson, Roy Lobb into the club, and they've been able to gel pretty quickly and be able to play pretty consistent footy. So I think they're going really well. They've still got some time to gel and get the younger guys involved in the club, but they started really well.
Yeah, we all probably wrote them off earlier on in the year, with not quite sure how they were going, but I think they were able to sort of, been able to trust in their game plan and the people that they have, and, like you're talking about the people who they brought in. So Ross Lyon is, he's been able to do that thus far this season. So let's just hope the Freo can continue.
And Andy, Harley Bennell, he played at Peel Thunder on the weekend. How far off is he?
I spoke to Harley during the week and after the game actually, and he absolutely just loved being back out there playing footy. So he pulled up really well. The body's fine, and he just reiterated that he just loved being out there playing footy. So whether he gets a call up to play AFL footy or whether it's the Waffle next week, he's just happy to be out there playing. So he's in a really good headspace, and I'm a mate of Harley's and a massive fan. So it's great to see him out there playing again.
Sure is. Now, Stokesy, a lot of people don't know that you're actually back at Geelong. What's your new role?
Yeah, well, sure, I like to keep that a bit of a secret so actually no one actually can hold me accountable for what I do. But, obviously I'm doing something right. We're sitting on top of the ladder.
Good to see nothing's changed.
Well, let's take a look at some of Gary Ablett's vision. As we know, the Cats aren't appealing the suspension for the punch. What's the story with Gaz, Stokesy? Is Gaz upset because you're back?
Yeah, probably. He's getting a little bit older, a little bit slower, probably a little bit more grumpier than he used to be. So, smart by him, just trying to slow down the young fellas and be able to stay in the game. But obviously it's a little bit frustrating to miss the week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was due for a rest anyway.
I did hear a whisper that he actually wanted to have a rest. The body was a little bit sore, and unfortunately the conditioning staff and Scotty didn't listen to him, so he took matters into his own hands, literally.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, not so sure about that, boys. Well, Maddie, thanks to Quid, let's get into our match of the week. So what game have you picked out?
Yeah, the Quid match of the week, I chose the Lions versus Hawks. I think it's going to be a fascinating game. I think it's going to be a really interesting battle of changing of the guard. I think we have some really old senior players at Hawthorn, and we have some up-and-coming young players at Brisbane. You've got Rayner, Hitwood, McCluggage against guys like Roughair's not there, but Polopolo, Shawnee B. So it's going to be a massive test for Brisbane, but I can see the same similarities to when we played Brisbane back in the day when they were coming off their three-peat. So it's going to be an interesting game, and hopefully all those young players step up and really step up and come away with the win.
But in saying that, Mathew, we just saw Bruce and Gunston. Gunston probably hasn't been able to kick the bags he has, but he kicked 6 on the weekend, and I think these guys, and with Alistair Clarkson at the helm, I don't think changing the guard is just going to happen just yet, in my opinion. They've been a very good team for a long period of time. Probably haven't obviously gone as well as they would have liked this year, but I think with Alistair at the helm, I think changing of the guard's not quite going to happen just yet. I'll even go back to the game and GWS to keep a team like that. That's a high scoring power to 3 goals to 3/4 time. Is a game of chess, and I think not quite yet for the changing of the guard.
Well, you can have your own opinion, but doesn't mean that you're right. So.
Well, it was good to see Gunston kicking goals. So, all right, let's get a tip. Andy?
Hawthorn, Shelley.
Well, obviously I'm going for the Lions.
Brisbane for me. Well, it was the first mid-season rookie draft on Monday, and Andy, I noticed on Twitter that you were pleased the Tigers picked up Marlon Pickett. Now, what can you tell us about him?
Well, Marlon he's worked quite hard to get his opportunity. He's spent time in jail. been at the South Fremantle Footy Club for the last couple of years and a dual best and fairest winner. So he's been so resilient and persistent to be able to reach his dream. I remember I narrated a documentary called Outside Chance that followed the boy through the Warraloo team in the Mercantile Football League. And I remember Marlon speaking on that about his young son and wanting to be a role model upon his release. So, for him to be able to say that back then and to be able to follow through that and now get his opportunity at AFL level, I think it's an absolute credit to him. And also Richmond Football Club to be able to have the guts to be able to take a player like that with the background that he's had. So I think he's going to be a great acquisition to the Richmond Footy Club. He's versatile, he's got great speed, can take a hang, and he's got a fair bit of flair about him, Mathew and Shelley.
Yeah, well, I also saw that Richo was pretty happy with your tweet too.
Yes, it's good. Good the Tiger boys getting behind me. So, great work, Richo.
So, as we all know, Brad Scott is no longer the coach of the Kangaroos. Matty, how do you think Brad handled the situation on the weekend?
Perfectly. I think sometimes in football we can actually get caught up in the negative about some of the reactions of what happens at footy clubs. But North Melbourne and Scotty, they handle it perfectly. I think he's done an amazing job to do the transition that he's been able to do, and also I think it's played a position perfectly to get a job next year.
I think the North Melbourne Footy Club is an absolute credit to him, because I heard there was a bit of an eerie feeling on the weekend against the Bulldogs after it was announced, because I think it got leaked out that it wasn't common knowledge that he was going to be his last game, but then it leaked out through the game, and I think there was a bit of eerie feeling around at Marvel Stadium. So for the boys to be able to react how they were, it probably would have been a bit emotional, but it was great to give him that send off that he deserved. And I agree with you. I don't really want to agree with you, Mathew, but unfortunately, but on this case I will, and I think they handled it really well. So it'd be pretty difficult to say you're not coaching next year, so do you want to hang around for the next 10 rounds?
Well, it certainly was a great speech. So a question that hasn't been asked much this week is who should coach North next year? So now, assuming that Longmire, Krakouer and Simpson are tied up, I'm going to throw up some names to you. So you ready? James Hird.
I think he's enjoying life without football, to be honest.
Michael Voss.
I think he's enjoying his time at Port Adelaide, Shelley.
This could be true. Now, what about our favourite son and long-time assistant at the Swans, John Blakey?
I think he's probably the one that makes the most sense. I think he, obviously a past player and great at North Melbourne, knows the meaning of the shin bone of spirit that a lot of the past players have been talking about. I think he's a perfect fit, and it's just a matter of whether the opportunity is right for him.
What about Dennis Pagan? I hear he's keen.
He could bring Pagan's paddock back. You never know. So with the 6 inside the 450, not quite sure how that'll go. But if Dennis Pagan, absolute champion, a legend of the game, you'd certainly be silly not to look at him, Shelley.
So what about next generation coaches like Scotty Burns?
I think Scotty Burns is a man that's done his dues. He's paid his dues as an assistant coach for a long period of time, knows footy inside and out, obviously a great football player, tough player, would be loved by the North Melbourne supporters. It's just a matter of the opportunity, and he's quite happy, I think, doing his job as an assistant coach, whether he wants to take the next step to a senior.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, what if Reece Short does well? Do they keep him?
Well, it'd be silly not to, because not too much is going to change at North Melbourne, but whoever's at the helm, the methodology, game plan and players sort of know what they're going to have to do. So I think it might be refreshing. Some players might get opportunities that they haven't in the past, and maybe things might be changed around and just looked at it from a sort of different set of eyes and a different point of view. So if he does well, you'd be silly not to look at him. He'd have to be right in the mix for that, Shelley.
Friday night footy this week is between the Kangaroos and the Tigers. So let's look back at some of their past encounters and see who's got the bragging rights. And we start with a thriller back in round 16, 2009. Richmond's Mitch Morton bobbed up with a goal in the dying seconds, and the game ended in a draw. The 2015 elimination final was another thriller, but the Roos got over the line in the end. Lindsay Thomas kicked the sealer. And the last time they met was round 8 last year. The Roos were in this game all day, but Josh Caddy kicked 4 and the Tigers got home by 10 points. So Richmond currently hold the bragging rights. Matt, who are you tipping this week?
It's definitely hard to go past Richmond. They're in great form. They're missing some really important players, influential players at the club, but they've been able to bring in some young players who just managing to play the role, and they're doing great. And
as an ex-Richmond man, I'm really pleased to be able to see the young guys coming through, as Mathew mentioned. with the injuries that they've had, probably earlier on in the season, everyone thought that probably wrote them off a little bit, because you look at Dustin Martin, he missed some footy, Jack Revolt, Trent Cotchin, and obviously Alex Rans with their season-ending knee injury. So when you hear that at the start of the season, you probably think, they're going to struggle. But the young guys that have come in have absolutely played their role to a T. And I spent time at Richmond last week, and Damien Hardwick and everyone around the club were absolutely amazed at how the guys have sort of come in and absolutely played their role like a duck to water. So it's hard to go past Richmond.
So there you tip?
Yep.
And I'm tipping the Tigers too. So, Matty, the injuries at Essendon are really starting to affect the Bombers' chances. We've got Devon Smith, Fantasia, Danaher and now Stringer. What can Woosha do to rejig the forward line?
It's a really important time of the year, I think. I mean, the club really need to make a decision whether they still hold out hope to play finals, or they start playing the younger guys, start to give them experience and look to shoot off for next year. I think with Mitch Brown still missing, David Myers still out, Stewart's missing for another couple more weeks. They're in a part of the year that could get away from really quickly, and they're going to have to make some quick decisions to see what happens for the rest of the year.
So, what are your thoughts, Matty? Do you think that they'll play finals?
I don't think so. I don't think with the way they're playing footy, the guys that they're missing at the moment, I just don't see how they can actually string enough games to get enough wins to play finals. And I think that it'll be a decision to be made to make sure that we start playing the younger guys.
Michael Hurley maybe in the back line, but I don't know who's going to replace him. Obviously, you need to kick goals. With Joey Danaher going out for the rest of the season, that's a big blow to him. So Hurley went down there right. He marks the ball pretty well, presents really well, and he's a great kick of the footy too. But he's just going to leave a massive hole in defence if that's the case.
And I think James Stewart is still a week or two away. Can he play a part?
Yeah, absolutely he can. I think, it's just being able to try to get your body right. He's going to slip in. Obviously, things are going to have to change up, because obviously things haven't been able to work through thus far this year. So you're going to have to rejig things and maybe put other players in different positions and just see how they go. Because I don't think they'll make the finals, and probably it's a bit of a rebuilding as well, Matthew, this year.
Yeah, maybe Aaron France, a young guy that plays on the half-back line, maybe just give him the rest of the year and go, here's your forward line, and make it your own. So it's going to be really interesting, and like I said, there's going to be some decisions that need to be made, but, good luck to him.
Absolutely. Now, we're halfway through the Sir Doug Nicholls round. Matty, did you play in a Dreamtime game when you were at Essendon?
No, unfortunately, Shell was injured for the one time that I was a possibility to play, but I'm sure Andrew's about to tell us a few of his magic games that he's played from.
So you played in the first ever Dreamtime game. Here you are with Dean Rioli. What was it like to play in that game?
Oh, it was so special to be, to have a round, Indigenous round, and to represent and acknowledge the contribution that Indigenous people have had to for AFL footy. You're really proud as an Aboriginal man to be able to be on that stage and be able to represent your family and your people. So it's a great initiative. Kevin Sheedy and Phil Baldridge, I remember going to a function last week, and then for it was just a thought, and then sort of from a thought to where it is now, it's absolutely amazing, with the whole AFL getting behind it and the AFL clubs as well. So I think it's a great initiative and a great concept.
Oh, it's so exciting. Now, Andy, as a fellow Western Australian, you'd know Sydney Stack. Do you know anything about his participation in the war cry on Saturday night?
Yes, as a fellow Noongar man, I certainly do know Sydney. I met him last week. So we just see here, this is foreign to us. We don't see any players getting involved in the war cry before a game. So I think, but I think it was great. I think it was amazing. I spoke to Sydney a couple of days ago, and he was just so proud as an Aboriginal man and having the opportunity to be able to showcase his love for his culture and love for being a Noongar man on a national stage at the MCG, at the Dreamtime at the G. So I don't think there was it was a great opportunity. Don't think there was a better opportunity to be able to do that.
Absolutely loved it.
Absolutely loved it. Everyone is still talking about it. So how good has it been to see all the players taking a stand against racism, Matty?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we make a stand. There's obviously been a few incidents during the start of the year that have popped up, and to be able to stand side by side by teammates, black and white, to be able to make a stand, I think it's an incredibly powerful move that the AFL have decided to make, and get the clubs to get all behind it and make sure they show their support. I think it's been a fantastic initiative.
Yeah.
AFL players are role models. The kids are going to be looking up to AFL players and see what they do. So, as Mathew said, it's unfortunately it still happens in society today. But as long as we can keep trying to educate each other and help be a part of a solution and work together going forward and try to stamp this out, because not only on the footy field but obviously in society as well. So, AFL, kudos to you. It's a great job what you've been able to do in Indigenous round, Sir Doug Nicholls round this week.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Education is the key moving forward for a shared future. So, well, Andy and Matt, you have They have had that incredible honour, or you know that I did rather, have that incredible honour. You didn't.
We've heard it all night. We've heard it all night, Shell.
Of designing the Carlton's jumper this year, and I'd like to thank everyone for their support. It has been absolutely brilliant. And thank you to the Carlton Football Club and all of the wonderful staff there who helped make this magic happen. It was so wonderful.
Shelley, that's absolutely amazing. I'm having a look at it now, just the colours and the design and the story behind it. To be able to wear someone's journey on their jumper during Indigenous round is an amazing concept, Maddie. So, you know, I've unfortunately wasn't able to wear any, but Shelley, can you tell us a little bit about the story and the design of the jumper?
Well, I went for the shield and the spear, and I asked Mick Harding, a Victorian Aboriginal man, to help me with that so he could draw that for me, and he's done a fantastic job with the linear lines, and I put on the wedge-tailed eagle, which is my totem and his totem and the people of the Kulin Nation's totem. So I wanted to make sure that they were protected and the players were looked after, and I basically looked at the back of the jumper as the people that have had your back through your journey, and it was really important the people that have walked before us. So I had the ancestors in the stars on the back, and also through the middle was the women streaming, because we all know that women have played a massive part in the role that you have to become AFL footballers. So I really wanted to honour them. So it was just a complete honour for my family and something that we will treasure forever.
Did a great job, Shell. It was an amazing jump. Unfortunately, it came number 2 in my list of my favourite ones, so but good work.
And what was your favourite one?
Obviously Geelong. Quentin Narkle designing our jumper. It was a great
beautiful
story.
I absolutely love all of them. I've loved all of the jumpers, and all of the outers have done a wonderful job, and all the boys did them proud by wearing them. It was wonderful. So I also saw something during the Dreamtime game that I haven't seen in many years. Richmond players with a blanket over them on the bench, trying to keep their legs warm. Well, that made me wonder about a few other things that we don't see much at the footy anymore, like dressing gowns.
It's funny you mention that. I did see Dan Rampy up in Sydney in a dressing gown last week. So I don't think they've got the memo up in Sydney. The boys are
Geelong boys still wear
They
theirs.
still do?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's a little bit colder up there.
It is a little bit colder up there. You're quite right.
And at the MCG, it was a little bit chilly, so I can understand the Tiger boys on the bench wearing that, because it was quite slippery with some bit of rain down there as well. So
it was freezing.
It was freezing. So I do understand them wearing a blanket over the pins there, Matthew.
And what about those lace-up jumpers?
I'm sure they would have busted a few fingers in their time, but they, you know, I would have loved to have worn one of them. I reckon I might have pulled it off, Crux. What do you reckon?
Mate, I do not disagree with that, absolutely. There wouldn't have been no laces at all in your jumper, that's for sure, Matthew.
Now, it's been a long time since I've seen a kids' orchestra behind the goals, but I did see one at the St Kilda game on the outside doing this, so it was pretty good to see outside of the Marble Stadium.
How good is that for kids to be able to be involved and be able to play their song? Hopefully they would have heard it after the game as well. But I think it's a great initiative, and everyone being involved in footy, I think it's just a great atmosphere when you go to footy. Unfortunately, I lived in WA the last couple of years, and being back in Melbourne at MCG, Marvel Stadium, the build-up and seeing everyone before the game and during and after, it's amazing. I love being back in Melbourne watching footy. Oh,
it's so good. Another thing we don't see much of at the footy these days is fire in the outer. Thank goodness. And here we have the Carlton Club souvenir stand burning down. No one looks in a hurry.
No.
Was that last week?
Yeah, anyway, moving right along. Maybe we can bring one or two of those things back. So one thing's for sure, we'll be back with the colour of your jumper next Wednesday. Don't forget, if you're thinking about quitting smoking, Quit can give you some small steps to help break the habit. So call 137848 or visit quit.org.au, and we'll see you next week.